If you want to attract a hungry dog, just hold out some hamburger and shout. He'll come running, I promise. There. Now you know everything I know about how to get a 99% return on direct marketing. 1% of the time the dog bites you. It's too bad those numbers are reversed with humans. Have you ever suspected that there was something off about a 1 to 2% return being called settled science, like the curvature of the earth or the dryer tax, where you put in two socks and only one comes out? Everybody accepts that. Why? Well, it's simple. If I get a 1% return on 10,000 pissed off people, which translates to, say, 100 sales of a $300 product, that's $30,000. Not bad for a day's work. I'm doing really well, aren't I? Well, except for the 9,900 people who go away forever because they didn't like being treated like a hungry dog. Now I'll have to find another 10,000 people and start all over again. This could get ugly. So here's a different question. Is there something other than direct marketing that could get me the same results, plus 9,900 people who felt better after getting my marketing than they did before? Today on The Visible Authority, the benefits of measuring ROH, the return on happiness. When I first got into having to sell myself, I found out it was a numbers game. The most famous sales trainers said to talk to 10 people, and if you're any good, you'll get 2 to buy. And I accepted that 20% figure because, after all, you only needed a few good people to have a good business. And they were famous sales trainers, after all. A little later, when I realized I had to do some marketing, or I wouldn't have anyone to sell to, the famous marketers said I should really try to get a 2% click-through rate. Wait, that was 10 times less than for doing sales. Why would that be? And why was that accepted as settled science? I felt so stupid even asking the question. It was only years later that I realized why that figure is taught in business schools. We humans love thinking that we've got it all under control. So if we accept the delusion that 1% is normal, we can pretend that doing better than 1% means we're some kind of genius. But what if we just looked at ourselves in the moment we see those returns, and instead of shutting down or freaking out, just ask, why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep banging our heads against the wall instead of reading what's written on it? Maybe we just don't want to accept that there are certain things not in our control, like how people respond to ads from strangers. Instead, we let our inner Stevie create this bizarre alternate universe that leads to failure every time, which leads to questions like, well, how could we nudge that 2.16% rate up to 2.75%? But is that even the right question? Direct marketing is about getting people to do things that I want them to do in order to make my life better, and I measure my success on how many I was able to manipulate. All of that I business is not very attractive. And eventually, I had to ask, is there a way to cut my self-interest out of the selling environment completely? All the smart people say, well, that manipulation, so-called, is for their own good. So the ends justify the means. That's life. Grow up, Steve. Well, that's one kind of a life. But it leads to a circular thinking. I want this, so I got to get them to do that. So I got to do a campaign that produces that result, and that leads me right back to the brick wall of 1%. And look, there's the writing on the wall again. And it says, stop being the salesman, be the trusted authority instead. Could that be true? What's wrong with creating marketing that helps people sell themselves? That leads to a different question. Not, how do I make my direct marketing more effective? It's, how do I engineer a circle of attraction, creating fans who listen, watch, and read, rather than roll their eyes and swipe left? So if you'd like to do that, here are 3 things we do in the content carousel to engineer a high return on happiness. Number 1, show up often, like on a schedule. That's a kind of a promise, and a promise kept increases trust. The more times you show up, the more promises you've kept. Subtle, but effective. Number 2, story sell. Instead of direct selling, tell a story about how something you did helped someone and leave it at that for now. You'll get the chance to talk about why someone should buy now on the sales page. And number 3, move on. The least attractive thing you can do is tell people why they should buy over and over and over again. If you show up on a schedule, though, you don't have to keep coming back with, like, oh, well, we were going to close this out, but the demand was so high, we couldn't in good conscience just walk away. Yes, you can. To do anything other than what you say you were going to do is so manipulative, it's almost too silly to talk about. Besides, it turns out that taking yourself out of the selling moment is the most attractive thing you can do anyway. So, show up, story sell, and move on. Happiness isn't complicated. We have to, though, literally die to the idea that manipulation is the best way to measure progress. It's not about getting a 1% to 2% response rate. It's about getting a 98% happiness rate. And the sales will come indirectly, but they will most certainly come. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time on The Visible Authority.